Hare Krishna. Question: when I interact with impersonalists, I try to give scripture and logic to explain to them how God is a person with form, but they are not able to, they don't accept it. So, although I am convinced by scripture and logic, still why am I not able to convince them? Is it that my knowledge or my words are deficient? Answer: not necessarily. People can have their attachment to their opinions, and sometimes they may be so adamant that they don't want to change their opinions. A person convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, it is said. So that is a possibility. Another possibility is also that people may require time to reframe their conceptions. So we shouldn't be too impatient. Sometimes, if you look at our own life, it may have taken time for us to gain that understanding of the personal conception, and others who come from different backgrounds may require different amount of time. So rather than trying to blame ourselves or deem ourselves inefficient or insufficient or deficient, we can focus on trying to do the best that we can. So what is the best that we can do? We can, at the very least, try to help people who have impersonalist conceptions to have a positive conception of devotees. Yes, this devotee is such a nice person, talks so gently and is so cultured. I met a nice person. So even that appreciation of a devotee can be and will be an agyat sukruti, will be an unknowing pious credit, which will kickstart their devotional service, which will actually create the foundation by which eventually the devotional service will start. So at the very least, through our interaction, we can give them this positive perception of bhaktas and bhakti yoga, and of course by the personal form of the Lord, which will be automatically resulting by that. Now there are some impersonalists who may be argumentative and critical, and if interacting with them starts hurting our faith, then it is best that we keep a distance from them. And if we can get them to interact with some senior devotees who can answer their questions, then that is better. But first of all, we have to protect our faith. So if the impersonalists are critical and argumentative, then best to keep a distance. We don't have to. We are devotees who are trying to serve the Lord and share His glories. We are not debaters primarily, although we may discuss, philosophize, and sometimes debate also, but we are not primarily debaters. We are devotees. So best to avoid arguments, especially arguments that end in harsh feelings on both sides. So put a pause to them and just have a cordial relationship, and maybe later people, when everybody requires time for their spiritual growth, they will come towards Krishna in due course of time. And often giving them books, giving them shastra, and letting them come in contact with the great acharyas through their books, that is very helpful in promoting their spiritual evolution also. And yes, it is true that there are three levels of devotees: Kanishtha-adhikari, Madhyama-adhikari, and Uttama-adhikari. So the Kanishtha-adhikari, one's own faith is weak and one does not have the capacity to convince others. The Madhyama-adhikari, one's own faith is strong, but one is not able to necessarily convince others. And Uttama-adhikari is one's own faith is also strong and one is able to convince others also. So if our own faith is strong, but we are not able to convert others, we may well be at the level of Madhyama-adhikari. And we keep practicing bhakti, we keep purifying ourselves, and gradually, by Krishna's mercy, those people's hearts may change. And as our purity and potency also increases, we may also be able to become more effective instruments in the hands of Krishna for transforming them. But the important point is that sometimes, even if somebody interacts with the Uttama-adhikari, some people may be adamant and they may not want to be transformed, because they want to hold on to their opinions because they are my opinions. How can I be wrong? So they may interpret scripture also for that purpose, and that's why it's best not to try to impose anything on them, and not to provoke a unhealthy debate or unhealthy argumentation, but focus on practicing our bhakti, sharing Krishna consciousness to the best of our capacity, and purifying ourselves so that eventually Krishna's plan will manifest. And at the very least, they will have Agyan Sukruti, by which they may eventually come towards Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Thank you. Hare Krishna.